Police officers of the world, what call have you attended that could be categorized as, "I've got first world problems, better call the police"? At my school, the cops were called because some bum asked a sorority girl for money, and she flipped out and knocked over her frappuccino. Obviously he didn't have the money to pay for it, and she called the cops. When they got there and figured out what they had been called for, the police officer went to the counter and bought a frappuccino. He then proceeded to give it to the homeless man and escorted him off campus. He seemed pretty irritated he had been called. In my rookie year, I went to lady's apartment for a possible burglary. When we got there, she told us the birds on her roof were annoying her, and we had to clear them off. My sergeant went ballistic and told her if she ever misused 911 again, she would be arrested. Repeatedly get calls in a more affluent part of our county, complaining about a neighbor mowing, and the cut grass landing on the complainant's lawn. Same area, complaint about a pizza delivery car parked on the curb. Apparently the car wasn't up to the standards of the neighborhood, and they didn't want it visible. They were actually delivering a pizza. Side note, pizza car was a newer model than my cruiser. I was a cop for about 5 years in a fairly well-to-do area of my town. One particularly memorable call I received was because a mom and dad decided that their son needed a spanking, but they wanted an officer to do it, so their child wouldn't see them as bad parents. I calmly told them no, and walked right back out of the door. Been a cop for a few years now, and these are the first few to mind, although there are many others. Came from vacation and water was off, whatever, old guy, didn't speak English, took 15 minutes just to figure out the issue, so I checked main, checked with city, they had turned off street valve after construction and forgot that house, got them there after hours and 20 minutes. Neighbor planted tree that would obstruct their view in 50+ years. I walked away after speaking to the complainant. Mom called in that her daughter was psychotic and suicidal because she didn't want to go to the mall with her. Took mom for psych eval. Wife called in domestic because her husband was destroying her things. She was a hoarder. He snapped and started cleaning. 2. Both called in because they had been driving down the street facing each other and neither would move to the side to pass. For 20-minute blocking traffic in both directions, including all the way back to a major blind intersection. I made them both move back to their last intersection, come forward, then made them both move to the side before they could pass. They were more than pissed off at me. Someone 4 blocks away was parked perpendicular in a parallel spot, in their own private driveway, did not issue a ticket, got a public complaint from that complainant for not knowing the bylaws. Responded, does not apply, and even if it did, I wouldn't issue a ticket. The best one, dozens of 911 calls from Boxing Day shoppers stuck in traffic at a mall. The list is endless. I feel this should be more directed at the emergency call takers, because speaking as a former dispatcher for a university police department, we often had to hear these and weed out the ridiculous ones. My personal favorite, University 911, where's your emergency? Hall parking lot. My car's frozen over and I broke my scraper. Send police to help. Sir, this is an emergency line. Are you hurt or in any danger? No, but if I don't get my car out, the store's going to run out of iPhones. I need to get into line now. I work in a city that has houses starting at $500,000, which for North Texas ain't too shabby, and other parts where the houses start out about a quarter of the price. There is a car wash that is on the nice side of town, and it backs up to a creek. A patron that was having her car washed and detailed called us up to tell us there was a turtle, and she was concerned about other people's safety. I thought it was a snapping turtle when we got the call. Nope, box turtle. Another call had me respond to the neighborhood adjacent to the golf course. Someone had called in a suspicious truck and trailer cruising around the neighborhood. I get there, it's Hispanic landscapers with their equipment. The lady called up because she thought it was suspicious they were there on a Wednesday, when she gets her lawn done on Thursdays. The thought didn't cross her mind that other people use the same or similar company on different days. There's many more that I've heard other guys talk about, and that I've gone on to. I hate my city sometimes. Was a security guard at a rich people's gated community place. Crazy lady on the HOA board required us to call the police if outside people ride their bicycles past the gate. Any boats pull up on the beach. Any outside people go swimming on the beach. Anyone in the community has a beach campfire. Anyone in the community uses fireworks, including on the 4th of July. Also, she made a rule that no motorcycles or cars with loud exhausts were allowed inside, even if they lived there. That was fun to enforce. That was not a fun job. I really wish HOAs weren't a thing. Especially when it's just one person power tripping. If you ever have HOA issues, walk around the neighbor with a stack of letters for your neighbors to sign, saying they are granting you their proxy vote. Get enough votes, go to the next meeting, raise, second, and pass all of your own agenda items. Strike down crazy HOA ladies' rules. Then the final item is that proxy votes will no longer be valid, and a quorum, 65%, of the neighborhood must be present to vote and ratify new measures. Bam. Crazy lady is powerless. Live by Robert's Rules of Order, die by Robert's Rules of Order. My uncle got called because this lady shared her crack with her boyfriend last week, and he wouldn't share his crack with her this week. Not exactly first world, but I guess you can consider crack a luxury. My local police department recently posted on Facebook about an elderly woman that called in because the couple across the street wouldn't wave at her, and she wanted an officer to come make them do so. Not a police officer, but my cousin called the police on her sister for making her do the dishes when she was 7. Me and my sister once had the cops called on us by the son of a couple visiting my parents. We were jumping on the bed after we were told not to. Laughs I had to this day. My mom called the cops on my stepdad when he told her to shut up. He bought the wrong type of potatoes, and she had a long day / was PMSing and said that he doesn't do anything right. He told her to shut up and went to sleep. She called the cops, and they didn't even come out. I called the cops on him 2 weeks later when he punched me in the face, tased her, tried to tase me, and threatened to shoot me. That one isn't so first world, but it's in contrast to the first, so. I've only been a cop for a few months now, but I've already had quite a number of these. I think it has part to do with the size of the town I'm in, roughly 2,000 people, but here are some of the more memorable ones. Got called to a woman's house to verify that her power was actually out. It was. A woman was blocking the road on a main street in town because someone was in her favorite parking spot and she wouldn't move until she could park there. Received a call that a man's friend wouldn't return his DVDs a night early. They were shortly returned. A woman called saying that she lost a ring and a pack of cigarettes. Upon arriving and after looking for about 10 minutes, she realized she was wearing the ring, and she had smoked the cigarettes. A man stormed into the PD, furious that his wife had opened a new savings account under her name, without the bank getting his permission. I have more, but this is just within a few months of starting out. Needless to say, it's not all shootouts and car chases. Edit. Wow, did not expect people to find the daily stuff I deal with to be so interesting. Haha. A couple things. I have to respond to all of these calls. Since it is such a small town, just about everyone knows everyone. Most people I meet on these calls know my name, even though I've never met them, and since it is such a small police department, having good relations with the community goes a long way towards making things easier in the future. The man who came in about the savings account seemed to be more pissed at the bank, saying something about possible identity theft. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he actually lived over the town line into another town, so I had to refer him to that police department, but I did warn them to keep an eye on him for a possible domestic. To everyone who asks how I keep my cool, getting paid for it does go a long way, but even for dumb things. If I don't have to write a lengthy report on it, I really don't mind responding. And since you all asked so nicely, here are a few more. Got a report of a possible domestic in progress. A party was banging on a man's door, and he was afraid to leave. Turned out to be his friend who he invited over. No, he did not check who it was. I wish I was making this up. Called out to residents by a concerned citizen that someone had their dogs in the yard when it was raining. He was worried they would get too wet and sick. It was about 60 Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius, out, and the dogs looked quite happy in the rain. Man reported that his neighbor's yard wasn't as well kept as his, and it was driving his property value down. Called to a parking lot, where a teenager was concerned that his two friends were going to get in a fist fight over who got to sit in the front seat. I pretty much just stood there glaring at them, until they both got into the back seat when I got there. Really nice neighborhood. I respond out their cause of road obstruction. When I arrive, I see 3 different cars with the bottoms covered in concrete, and some rightfully pissed off people. They are thinking that some concrete truck lost its load in the roadway. But when I look at it, it looks like it's a stripe running across the road. I turn a look at one of the houses right in the area, and I see a wheelbarrow and shovels, and shit beside the house. Walk up and, yep, they are covered in concrete. I knock on the door, and this way too happy old bitch answers. She tell me how she paid $290,000 for this house. And it's her right to slow down all the speeders by making her husband build a speed bump. Been a cop for just under a year now. Fortunately enough, I don't get that many ridiculous calls. Here are 2 that come to mind though. 1. We get a call from a woman to say she wants a significant other arrested for assault because he threw a pillow at her. Yeah. To make matters worse, as this had happened inside a home between a couple, it was classified as a domestic incident. My force's policy is to treat all domestics as immediate response calls. So we were blasting it through the streets of a major city to get to the pillow incident. 2. We attended this teenage girl's house to take a report of malicious communications. She informed us that her friend had hacked into her Facebook account and called her a slag. Who on earth goes to the cops when they are raped? My friend, who was young, bought a house with a very strict HOA. He had the police called to his house because his grass was an inch too tall. Yes, someone actually came out to his house, with a stick, and measured his grass. This was after he received a notice earlier in the week about it being half an inch too tall. They wanted him cited for not following a local ordinance. The cop told them to piss off, because my friend could prove he had a weekly contract with a lawn company. What it was, they had a company where they were receiving kickbacks from for every customer they had on board. They were pretty much trying to bully him into using the lawn service they wanted. Here's some calls I have taken. Neighbor's cat is too loud. Lady is scared of thunder. It was thundering. Guy is cold and would like a blanket brought to him. Elderly lady wanted us to shovel her driveway since her plow guy didn't show. Lady doesn't like the amount of pedestrian traffic on her street, would like us to stop them from walking. Guy that is dog sitting for a friend afraid to enter house because dog is barking at him. Person not happy with how long it is taking phone company to repair wire would like police to do it. Felt being without a phone was an immediate life safety issue. Received hundreds of calls total on a suspicious motor vehicle going house to house. It's always a newspaper delivery man. Not an officer, but I have a funny family story. When my baby brother was 5, he called 911 because my other brother, 11, slammed the door. We were at my grandparents in California on spring break, and I was babysitting. He dialed and then hung up because dispatch answered. Dispatch called back as per protocol, and I answered. I was 14, but didn't know the phone number or address of the house, so they sent an officer out. After explaining the situation, and the fact that we lived in a very rural area that didn't have 911, I got a lecture about how my brother shouldn't watch Rescue 911 anymore, early 90s TV show, as he cried hysterically. I made baby bro apologize, and they went on their way. It was hilarious, and we still laugh at him today for it, 23 years later. TLDR, baby brother called 911 on vacation because other brother slammed a door in his face. Police show up on doorstep. The most irritating are the suspicious persons based solely on race. One guy was an older black male in the alleyway. He was standing next to the utility truck wearing a hard hat and yellow vest. There was a second black male in the utility truck bucket that was suspended in the air, near electrical lines. This call came from the same elderly white couple that, without hesitation, employed a known meth addicted burglar as a handyman, and gave this same man unfettered access to their house solely because he was not a black male. The couple had several items stolen from them, and they believed these blackmails they were calling on were in fact casing their home for their next hit. The troll who lived underneath me called the cops 3 times in a month, each time saying it was something serious, until they actually showed up. First time, she complained about the sound of me moving back and forth in the shower after 10 PM. Second time, I dropped a pot in the kitchen at 4 PM, and she felt I did it on purpose since I should have known her baby was napping. Third time, noise complaint for a loud party. No clue on that one. I was asleep with all the lights off when the cops showed up. They threatened to arrest her for false reports if she called again. Call out for domestic abuse report. Some guy living with his mother arguing over an inflatable bath pillow. She claimed it was her day to use it. He maintained she was mistaken, and they both called in to report that someone had slashed the pillow. Let me tell you about a little place called Atherton, California. The Atherton police blotters, like the ones in that album, show up in my local paper, and they're always worth a read. My favorite is one that says something to the effect of, police received a call from an elderly lady who complained of a bright light shining outside her window. When called to check on the situation, police confirmed that the bright light was in fact the moon.